Phase 2 of the Royal Commission of Inquiry into the official response to COVID-19 got underway in Auckland on Monday and will run until tomorrow. Phase 1 was originally announced in 2022 by then Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern. It aimed to examine the lessons learned and help the country better prepare for future pandemics. The second phase was born from National's coalition agreements with both ACT and New Zealand. And we'll hear from everyone, everyday people, and their experiences of the government's decisions over vaccine use and lockdowns, including the extended lockdowns in Auckland and Northland. And we'll also hear from businesses and organisations affected. Restaurant Association Chief Executive Marisa Bidois has been an outspoken voice on the economic toll that successive lockdowns have had on hospitality, especially in Auckland. And she joins me now. Marisa, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It's good to talk. It's been a while.
It has been a while.
Yeah. Look, you have said the government's one-size-fits-all approach during that time added to the toll of many businesses. Do you think they should have put more tailored rules in place?
Absolutely. The one-size approach really didn't work at all. The seated and separated rules for our industry cut kind of venue capacity in half. There were a lot of, blanket conditions that were applied across industries, and then some were applied across industries and others weren't. So, we definitely didn't think that that one size fits all worked. We know that, of course, during these times, there were a lot of decisions that were made quickly without a lot of information. So, we understand the context to some degree, but it certainly did have a massive impact on our industry.
Yeah. I mean, you push for things like contactless deliveries during Alert Level 3, but felt those ideas were ignored. Why do you think that happened? It was like they didn't, they weren't listening to anyone outside.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. We did, as you mentioned there, a significant amount of work around ways to, ensure that our businesses could keep their livelihoods continuing. That was really sort of front and foremost for us. A lot of businesses in our industry, their homes were attached to their business. If their business goes down, they lose everything, essentially. So, it was a really significant impact on so many of our businesses across the country. And our main goal was to think, how can we, keep people operating as much as possible? So we did quite a lot of work early on in the state, in the beginning of the pandemic, to work out how we could keep businesses running to some degree. And the contactless delivery was one of those ways that was presented and wasn't adopted until, several months later.
How did your industry adapt, Marisa, or come up with innovative ways during those lockdowns to stay afloat? What could they do?
Yeah. Look, a lot of our business owners, they were also in kind of brainstorming mode. Some people were just obviously in shock as well and found it difficult to think straight. But, a lot of our businesses developed the pre-prepared meals platform in their businesses. Some of those are still going, in fact.
Yes.
Our businesses thought, hey, how can we innovate here? What can we do? That was one of them. Some of them also started doing like online cooking classes and things like that. And again, some of those are still operating today. So there definitely was a lot of innovation during that time. And the industry really did kind of band together as well.
Yeah. I mean, I've noticed, now going out in a lot of restaurants, they seem to do just as much business with delivery meals, pre-cooking meals for people that won't come into the restaurant or don't come into the restaurant. I wonder, and I think, gosh, pre-COVID, I didn't notice that, think that was that busy. But do you see that some restaurants have really kept that up?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I mean, I think that sort of delivery phenomenon was starting, it was in the early stages, but essentially the pandemic really kind of launched that into a new kind of era, really. And yes, 100%. I mean, we now even see ghost kitchens where some businesses don't even have a restaurant front at all. They just do delivery.
Yeah.
So it really has kind of, it has changed, and our industry has adapted in some ways as a result of that.
Isn't that amazing? Like out of adversity, it's like nature. You have to come up with something else. Did you notice at the time, Marisa, the differences? Were there any differences in how the lockdowns affected, say, your small family-run business versus your large restaurant chains? Or were they all equally as affected?
Look, I think businesses were equally affected, but I think the difference is that some had more reserves than others. So if you're part of a bigger chain, you tend to have a few more kind of resources or levers to pull for accessing finance, for example. A lot of our smaller businesses really struggled to kind of access finance to, I guess, get themselves out of trouble, cover some of the debt that had built up over those closure periods as well. That was one of the main things that a lot of businesses told us anyway. They couldn't access finance, to carry on. And when you come from a bigger business, usually, like I said, you have a few more levers to pull on there.
Yeah. So the Restaurant Association has submitted its feedback in writing, I believe, but will not appear at the hearings, Marisa, is that right?
Yes, that's right. We've submitted our feedback in writing, and we're not appearing yet at the hearing in this occasion, but it's certainly not because we're not opposed to it. If that came to it, we would certainly front up as well.
Yeah. And how critical then is it that we learn lessons from the pandemic response?